a better spot? I don't think I'm gonna take the whole 5 minutes. I will leave some time for questions for me. Somebody asked me why it is that I decided to run. I think that's the biggest question that I've been getting. Why would you decide to run? You've got so much other stuff going on. You've got your mentoring programs. You've got the violence intervention work that you do. You got all this other stuff. Just got out of the PPS school board race. Why get into another one? And I think the real answer for that is that I know what my county can be. In the midst of all the crazy and the chaos, I've seen people come together. I've seen churches come together to help other people. I've seen businesses come together to help other businesses thrive. I've seen neighbors come together to help other neighbors get by. In the midst of all the crazy, I've seen what our county really is, and it's strong people willing to do what it takes to stand up and make sure that we all get what we need. And I feel like that's what we need within our county. That's what we need within our city. That's what we need within any of our government municipalities. We need people that are prepared to come together, tackle the hard situations, sit down and talk with one another, figure this thing out like adults, and then find a comparable solution that'll work for everybody, not just a few people. We need solutions that are going to be focused on uplifting the entire county, solutions that are going to be focused on making sure that the businesses continue to thrive and that they grow and that other people actually want to start businesses again. Like we want our businesses to come back. A lot of people have left and gone over the water because it's easier to deal with over there. I want them back. And so I'm working to build a county that I know it's possible because I see it every day. I see it with the people that I work with. And so me being here is about transparency, it's about accountability, it's about calling people to the carpet, and it's about, owning my stuff when I'm out and then celebrating the people when we get it right. And so thank y'all for having me. And I know I didn't do 5 minutes.
No, great.
Thank you. Mike, thank you for having me. My name is Nabil Zaghloul. I have lived in District 2 for over 30 years, and I served as on the front line as a public servant for our community here in District 2 for over 32 years. Worked as a manager in public safety, the health department with also public health. I've built primary care clinics and behavioral health systems from the ground up here in District 2. I also currently work as a director for a social and economic justice program with mental health, behavioral health in District 2 in the Collie neighborhood. I'm running, often people ask me why you're running, and I'm running because after 32 years with Multnomah County, I want to build a Multnomah County that serves everyone. That's senior who's living on a fixed income, who cannot pay their property taxes and they had to sell their home because a lien was put on their house. I want that young person who's trying to build a career, about that business struggling every day to open the door, about that person living on the street. I want to build a Multnomah County that does not always and constantly respond to crises and trying to manage hardship, but prevents them in the first place. I want to build a county that does not create dependency, but stability for people to make their own choices. And accountability. I want to have a government that deliver results that our community can see, measure, and believe in. I talk about accountability. When I was growing up, my parents regularly received my school report card. It showed what I was making progress, what I needed to improve on, and what I needed to work on. It was not about punishment. It was more about learning, becoming better, and about my future. The government should be any different. County residents needs to be able, they need to be able to see what is working, what is failing, what we need to improve on. That's why I will be introducing the Multnomah County Accountability and Results Act. Think of it as county public report card. We're way due for that. And so if you remember one thing about me today, just remember this. The county report card candidates. I want, people ask about priorities. There are a lot, but I'm gonna focus on three. I wanna reduce visible homelessness through behavioral health treatment, recovery, sustained support, but at the same time, prevent families from falling into homelessness. The inflow into homelessness. See, we got really good at one thing. We always respond. We respond when somebody ends up in the street. We respond with that young person falls behind. We respond with somebody who's having a behavioral crisis. We're always going to have crisis response. We need that. But we need to invest strongly in prevention. Because if it's not, why do we expect the same outcomes? And the other thing I say, people ask me, well, what distinguishes you? For over 32 years, I have, alongside incredible teams, some of them are here, built primary care clinics here in District 2 from the ground up, behavioral health systems, food security, youth violence prevention, supporting services, homelessness programs here in District 2. So I'm not running on a theory and a campaign slogan or an idea. That all the proposals have already been tested. It's easy to stand outside a car and describe what's wrong. I have spent over 32 years under the hood, working on the engine. I've seen what looks good on paper, what works in the field, and what must change. So that's what I'm running. And by the way, my father, I have a bachelor's degree in social science and literature. I also have a law degree in public administration. But the lessons I have learned in our community center about people's dreams, about what they challenges, that have taught me more than a class ever could. So thank you for having me.
Stand up. So I think the first question is, I think you both kind of stand on the same side of the accountability, and I think that's what everybody's begging for, right? There's obviously this knowledge of the county charter some of us know about. We've heard multiple commissioners complain about. There have been some fixes over the last year, some minor fixes, like the commissioners being able to get stuff on the agenda again. But ultimately, the chair is the CEO, the chief executive. Some of you might have seen in the news this week, like our current chair hired a negotiator for the Moda Center deal that works for the Blazers. Like, it was a complete conflict of interest. And so, you know, you may or may not get somebody who wins the county chair seat that wants to play ball. So as a commissioner, I guess, how would you bridge that divide, or, you know, get the word out, I guess? How would you deal with that?
It's a good question. Thank you for asking. And I'm gonna take a first stab at it. The first thing I would say about this is communication is king, right? We need to be communicative. We need to be upfront. We need to be verbal. We need to be loud. And when all else fails, we have to remember that although the chair does have a lot of sway and they are in charge, the chair is also one vote. The chair is one vote. You need 3 votes in order to get something passed. If you don't like something, or if you disagree with something, then you have to be upfront and vocal about what it is that I'm disagreeing with, why I'm disagreeing with it, offer a solution, and then vote no if it means voting no. We've got a lot of voting yes going along simply because, you know, that's just what we're supposed to do and that's the way things go. But the reality is the chair is one of 3 votes. If you get 2 other people that don't feel the same way, then if all 3 of us vote no, then it doesn't pass. A lot of times it takes courage. It takes courage in the face of adversity to stand up and be the one to say no. I mean, it's not, we make it more complicated than what it really is. Vote no, explain to the other people as to why I'm voting no, and then stick to it. It just is what it is. It's been done before. This wouldn't be the first time that, you know, the chair's decision and the chair's budget has been voted down. It's not uncommon. It wouldn't be the first time. You don't have to be a radical. You just have to stick true to what you know, and then vote knowing that what I'm doing is not about me. This isn't because I'm not getting my way. This isn't because I simply don't like what's happening. This is not best for our county. And as a result of that, I have to say no. Saying no, well, I just also believe it encourages other people to stand up for what they believe in as well. And you just got to be bold. Sorry, Tom.
So you're opposed to compromise and working across the aisle to your other quote?
I will always work across the aisle. We should be able to work together. We should be able to come together and talk about things. We don't have to always agree with everything, but how I treat you, you'll always know that I value. But if you're saying something or you're doing something that I completely disagree with, and it's just we're not the same, then we need to either, like you said, compromise. Let's sit down and talk about that. And compromise does not mean that I vote yes now and then we'll come back and work it out later.
That's right, you work it out before.
Compromise means that we're going to work it out here, and then once we get to a compromise that can go forward, then I can give you a vote. I'm not giving you my vote in hopes that maybe after I've given you my vote that you'll come back and you'll work with me, because you have no incentive to do so. So no, it's going to be a no until we get a compromise and until we get something that's going to work for everybody. And I just believe in calling it is what it is. Say it out loud. Don't tell me one thing in the back room and then come out here and say something else. If you say it out back, say it out front.
Thank you. Nabil?
Thank you. Absolutely. I'm open to the idea of balancing our approach and our system, how decisions are made. It's true that there is frustration because the chair manage all the agenda. They manage what numbers go out for community to see. They have a lot of power. 70% of the agendas are made to chair. 30% is only the commissioners. So we need to balance how decisions are made. And I talked earlier about transparency and accountability. We need to have a meaningful process where communities, businesses, nonprofit organizations are involved in the process. You know, it's a difference between having a show where people come to testify, but the decisions have already been made. I see it every day. So we need to have the people involved. We forgot one thing important. We elected officials got there to represent the community. And we shouldn't be always telling them this is the destination. We need to ask them where we want to go. Now, the commissioner has the power to submit resolutions and amendments in the budget. They have the power to hold programs accountable for the things that are being delivered. But I agree with them. We need to do more of a collaborative. We need to be coalition builders. We need to reach out. I've been in some of those discussions. The focus is to win the argument. It shouldn't be. It should be about shared responsibility. We're all in the same boat. You know, we're rowing. We don't have to agree on every stroke, but we need to be rowing in the same directions. Okay.
I'm gonna be super strict, but keep it in line.
Okay.
So I think a lot of folks here maybe are familiar with Sharon Myron. She's running for county chair. She's a former county commissioner. Earlier this year, she put out a website and a plan to actually make the programs at the county work together and be an actual system. There's like a lot of cool programs that do a lot of stuff, but we don't have this like continuum of care, as it's called, where we're watching a person flow through the system and then following up with them for several years to make sure they stay housed and treated and whatever they need. So Sharon's kind of considered an underdog candidate, we know, but wondering if you guys have seen this plan, And even if she doesn't become chair, if it's something you would be interested in supporting or pushing as commissioners to get the county to move in that direction, because I think most of our future Portland members at least really support that idea.
Thank you again. Thank you for the question. Good questions. Y'all got good ones. Sharon's plan. I have seen Sharon's plan. We talked about her plan as to it's like I think it's like a zero net budgeting. Like let's balance it all. Let's come back to the table with all the commissioners involved. Let's talk about essentially the way I imagine it is the vision of where we want to be as a county. This is where we want to be. And then now we realign the budget and all of its components to say, what do we need to do to get us here? And so as much as I agree with that, my only pause on that would be, what does it look like? What is the risk? How much do we set back if we try to do it all at one time? Is there a way to do that without dismantling everything all at once? I believe in where she's going. I believe in where she's trying to get to. I believe that the direction is good. My only question is the way that we get there. Is it all or nothing, or is there a phased approach where we can say, okay, we're going to do this at this point, this at this point, this at this point, and move so on. I do believe the budget needs to work for the people. I'm sick and tired of us just giving money to a thing without, and I believe we were just talking about this earlier, that we're just giving money just because we've always given money, and then we don't have a results. The problem is we give you money without a metric that says this is what success looks like before we give you the money. And then after we give you the money, we ask you, okay, so what is it supposed to do? What do you think is supposed to work? We should have an idea of what success is going to look like. And then maybe we sit down with you and we build this together, what it's going to look like, since, we want you to be a part of the process. But I'm not just going to give you money without having something to measure whether or not you did good with the money that I gave you. And then at some point, we got to start saying, okay, I'm not giving you another dime. Like, I'm not giving you another red dime until you can show me results. If that means you don't get money next quarter, then so be it. That's not on me, that's on you. Show me something. Show me something for what I gave you. Us throwing money into the houseless community and not having any type of way to measure whether or not they stay off the streets or do they just keep coming back night after night is throwing money away. We are throwing money away. Because all we're doing is saying, did I get you off the streets? The question needs to be, can I keep you off the streets? Am I attaching the money that I'm giving out to a resource that says, you need behavioral health? Well, Nabil knows about behavioral health, so I'm going to bring him in so that he can talk about what does a behavioral health specialist need to look like? What do we need to make sure that they're attached to? What do we need to make sure that they have access to so that we can make sure that they go from here to here? Okay, so then they get that. Now who's doing workforce development? Because once they get here, we need to make sure that they got workforce development so they can go out and they can get a job and maintain themselves. And then, so now who's doing that? And then what does short-term housing look like versus long-term housing versus, now you're on your own type housing. So it's not just to say, I want to get you off the street for the night. It might actually cost me more money because I might have to say, I need to create a system that's going to support you for longer. Because just supporting you for this interim, just supporting you for this moment is not supporting you. I'm enabling you. Nobody gets off drugs because I'm tired. Because they don't know. They don't know. Comfort breeds comfort. Discomfort breeds change. So therefore, we're going to have to it might have to be a little uncomfortable. I'm sorry. But this is what it means to be a part of my program. To be a part of my program, I can guarantee you that if you do this, and this, in 6 years, you'll be stand on your own feet and you'll be away from this right here. But you got to do all these things with fidelity. We're allowing people to do stuff without fidelity. And then we wonder why it doesn't work. And then so our systems, I'm going to stop talking because our buzzer was about to go off. We need to make our systems work for the people instead of making the people work to support our systems.
Thank you for asking the question. I'm in alignment with Dr. Myron. I'll vote for her. I worked with her for 2 terms. She was speaking at my kickoff campaign on Friday, and she's right. When we talk about the behavioral health. Oftentimes, when people leave the sobering setting, the emergency room, the hospitals, the treatment program, that's where the handoffs breaks down. That's where people fall through the crack. See, I work in the behavioral health every day, and we send people to the sobering center. They may need 12 hours to get sober. But recovery requires many months and years of sustained support for people to get on their feet. We need to combine behavioral health treatment, recovery support, wraparound services, case management, housing. The housing is not by itself it's not enough. Housing is the first door. It's the first step. But really, the issue is there's not a coordinated system. Not that we have a lack of caring people and wonderful clinicians and practitioners. I work with them every day. But they're all operating from a separate islands. There's not a coordinated system. Think of it like this wonderful orchestra where you have talented musicians. Everybody's playing their own song. All you hear is noise. I want to build a system that everybody is playing for them from the same sheet of music. I want to build a system that stays long enough for people, for them to stabilize and recover. Multnomah County, that's what Dr. Myron speaks about. Multnomah County has one of the largest budgets in its history, yet many of the biggest challenges remain. And we need to ask ourselves, why is that happening? And we should continue the same investment. When it comes to behavioral health, yes, we need capacity. We need to have behavioral health professionals and clinicians and treatment facilities. But we also need to invest in early intervention and in rehabilitation. We don't do that. We can't wait until a crisis happens and then we are responding. So what Dr. Myron is speaking about, the county and government isn't measured by how much money it's spent. It's measured by how many lives it has improved. We need to create programs that deliver graduation. You know, in the behavioral health, this is what happened. The high risk is not while people are in the program. Often comes immediately when people exit. You know why? Because the system is not coordinated on that person. And not only that, the behavioral health is not measured by how many doors it happens. Is when people enter the right time, the right door, and always there's someone there to walk them to the next door. That's what we need. That's what Dr. Myron is talking about. So we can't continue the same and expect something different.
Thank you.
I have a
Yes.
question. So everybody focuses on homelessness, behavioral health, drug addiction, and all of that. Multnomah County is losing population and it's losing its tax base. We're losing jobs. Without any of that, none of this is going to be funded. What would you both do to address that?
Definitely. You want to go? You ready to go?
I stay ready to
Okay.
talk, but I'm a preacher
Born
by
ready.
trade, so talking is not a issue that I have.
I know that. So thank you for asking the question. I talked earlier about wraparound services. This is what we do in the program. We combined behavioral health, economic security, housing, workforce development, apprenticeship. That's how you make a difference. It's not, we're talking about, you mentioned economic. One of the things I built from the ground up in District 2, it's called the Economic Justice and Recovery Program. It's all public record. We have graduated 2,800 people from the pandemic. These methods, they work because people need to have a sustained income. We had a gentleman who came to me with 4 daughters. Came and he goes, Nabil, my minimum wages I can't even pay for my 3-bedroom home. High rise of rent, food cost, utility bill, transportation, childcare. These are pushing these challenges household to the edge. We worked with him and his wife, who just simply wants to become a state certified child care provider. We sponsored that. She became a child. She even volunteered at the center when we do groups to take care of the kids, giving back to the community. It's not a lot, but she has an additional sustained income. They no longer need us. We need to invest in, we built a partnership with Albertson, with Amazon, with the faith-based communities, the churches, with the Havurah Shalom. These economic security is the most valuable form of prevention. So we need to create that. The county and the city and metro needs to invest in workforce development. We have young people who are falling behind because they can't build a career. We can't ignore that. We have developed this reputation that the city and Multnomah County, that they're anti-business. We shouldn't. We can't address homelessness or behavior. We have to bring it to the table and show them why it's better for them to invest. But more than that, have incentives for them, why they should participate. We create, for example, homelessness. For this last year, we moved 100, it's public record, 100 and in our program, 125 people from the shelters and the hotels. They're living in sustained permanent homes. Why? Because we create a partnership with the private sector. We addressed their business realities. They need guarantee of payments because nobody wants to take a risk on families who don't have income, they don't have good credit history, and they carry an eviction order on their record. So as a business, as a landlord, you want to have some guarantee. I want to work with you, but you can't just have me, because when someone leaves and all that, they destroy the apartment or something, I'm going to end up with the bill. So you need to address this. And when you bring the business community and you sit and you talk to them and they hear that, okay, you're giving some incentives and guarantees, they are with you. So these are the things that we need to look at. Thank you for asking the question.
I have a follow-up after.
Sure.
So part of what I've seen in my conversations, in my walk-in, talking with businesses, the reason that I talk about the houseless community and making sure that we tie everything together. First and foremost, there's not a single bullet that we can do that will, that can take care of where we're at, right? It's going to take all of us, this, as Nabil is talking about, the wraparound services, takes all that working together with a level of intentionality, all doing our spot, our part in our lane in order to lift up the whole thing. When you start looking at the businesses and business growth and revitalization and transformation, because businesses are leaving because of the first issue. They're leaving because I got people loitering right in front of my building, and then when I call the police say there's nothing that I can do about it, and it's really not a police issue, it's a county issue, because that's why are they out there on the streets to begin with? So we need to be dealing with the programs and the shelters that we're talking about so that we can get them into those rehab centers and get them there. But until we deal with the issue, the fact that they're there, my business can't thrive. When my business can't thrive, then I can't give people jobs. And when I can't give people jobs, then I can't pay bills. The best anti-poverty program is a Portland wage job. That's the best one. I mean, we don't. You want to talk about seeing something grow? And the reason I say Portland wage instead of living wage is because what we're talking about here, you can make a living wage and still not afford to live in Portland. So if we start looking at the Portland wage job, what does it take to live in Portland? What do we need to shift? How do we support businesses? And we support businesses by showing up, by saying that, you know what, you can't be here. I understand that, it's tough right now, and I'm not blaming you for this right here. However, I am saying that you can't do what you're doing here. We do have a day shelter. We do have a rehab center. We do have the workforce development space that you can go to, but you can't set up a camp here. We help our businesses. We see our community come back and start thriving by holding people accountable and holding our systems accountable to doing what it is that they were designed to do. we're not going to let you stay here, but we shouldn't be taking you to the hospital because the hospital is not where you belong. Jail is not where you belong. We're not going to be able to arrest our way out of this. But he has a rehab center. He just told me he's got a behavioral health center. He's got somewhere for you to go. So I'm going to give you to Nabil. Nabil, help my guy out. Let him get where he needs to be. Get him, you know what I'm saying, get him off the street. Get him back into a hotel so that he can do his thing. But you can't come back here. And we do that across the board so that all of our businesses can thrive, so that all of our business can show up. We start talking about people aren't going out because people don't feel safe going to these different businesses. It's not because they don't enjoy the business. People are going online because they don't feel safe going outside. So if we clean up outside, it's a baseline. It's a baseline. It's to say we care about our city. We care about the people in our city. We care about everybody in our city. So we want to see everybody grow. We want to see everybody transform. We want to see everybody change. And we do that by holding people accountable to what is. You can't be here. There's other places for you to go. It's just not here. There are other things for you to do. It's just not here. And then we go back to that business and we say, how can we support you? For too long, we've been just expecting you to do it on your own. What are some of the things that we might be able to do to help support you? Can we fast track something? Can we, paint when it comes to start public safety and stuff like that? We take some of our public safety dollars. Can we use some of those dollars to clean up the graffiti that they painted on your walls so that your business is thriving? It looks like a place to do business again. So now we can't do everything. We can't undo the trauma that's been caused. But what we might be able to do is take some of our public safety dollars and use that towards re-beautifying this space, and that's where we can help. It's not the end, but maybe it's a starting point. And I feel like if we get intentional and we get creative and we start looking at what it is that we want to see down the road. Again, if you want to talk about what she's talking about, Miriam's talking about, she's talking about a county that we can believe in, one that works for everybody in it, one that lifts up the people and not the systems, right? And so now let's look at that and say, how do we take this system, how do we take this budget, how do we take this and make it work for everybody involved? And maybe we slice out some money to help re-beautify this city that don't look the same way it did when a lot of us got here. I've been here since '94. I've raised all my kids here. I've started grassroots crime intervention programs where we work with those that are at the highest risk for crime, and we've been able to reduce crime. I've worked with the mayors to say we're not going to have any shootings in this park from this time to this time because I need us to fill up the parks with people and I want people to be safe to come outside again. I was in the Ville when nobody else would be in the Ville and they were shooting all over the place. I was making sure that the programs ran and that people knew that when you came to this park at this time, it was going to be safe because I care about the people, not the systems. I care about people. People build stuff, but people change stuff. The systems have to work for us. We don't work for them, right? And so you asked me what I would do, why I tie all that together, my guy. I think it's because you can't have one without the other. If you don't address this, then this is always going to be a problem. And our businesses are going to continue to suffer. And then we lose them to Clark County. And they go just over the water. Because you know what I'll do? I'll drive over I-5 so that I can go to a business over there because it's not that far. But you know who I'm hurting? I'm hurting us because the tax dollars that we should have got from that business that are now just on the other side of the river, they go to Vancouver and Washington. They don't come to Oregon and Multnomah County. So we need to create a space that's conducive for our businesses to want to be here and want to come back home. And the way that we make them want to come back home is we make it attractive. We make it sexy. We make it look good again. And once we do that, people are like, yeah, I want to be back with us. So
my follow-up question to that is, and that a lot of it's addressed towards you, Nabil, because there's this philosophy of housing first, which we keep hearing from Chair Peterson and Commissioner Singleton and Commissioner Moyer. I live in downtown Portland, and what I see that this is not a housing problem in downtown. This is a drug addiction problem and a mental illness problem. So if you put those people in apartments, they're going to trash them. These are very expensive investments that the city and county has made. They're just going to get trashed. How would you ensure that these folks are actually first made well and then they are housed? Or if you house them, how would you make sure that these investments that we've all made, you know, are protected and that you don't endanger the other people that are living in the same housing that are in recovery?
Thank you. Thank you. What's your name?
Sandeep.
Thank you so much for asking the question. Absolutely. Before I want to just bring some budget realities. In the program where I manage, we get about $1.6 million versus $350 million. We only have the capacity to take a few a year. That's what we're saying. These are working. Don't take my word for it. Let me tell you what's happening. Which is, you brought the issue. We had this lady who we involved in the program. The county got her an apartment. She was selling all the furniture and bringing her friends from the street using drugs. Housing is the first step, but it doesn't. It shouldn't be. This is the thing. With housing, our responsibility doesn't end. It just starts. We took this person in our program in an outpatient recovery, sustained. We worked with the family, moved her to a place where she has the support. We did workforce development, employment support. After 14 months, she's on her feet. She's paid her own rent. She doesn't need the program. It took 14 months. So going back to what you said about housing, housing by itself doesn't work. See, I volunteered and worked in the shelter on the street for years. We don't even track the distinction between who has mental health and addiction services and their family just lost their home because of an eviction. We don't make the distinction in any. We need to be able to track that. So, most of the people living on the street are experiencing serious mental health addictions and behavioral health. So we need to work with them and combine all the services I had mentioned earlier. It requires many months, but there is success. It works. Don't take my word for it. We have the numbers to show and people to talk to. They got on their feet. Now the second thing, a group of people that's often overlooked is that working family, that single mother who's about one paycheck, one emergency away, one expected crisis away from losing their homes. We should not be waiting until the roof has already collapsed or the house is on fire, it's burning before we call that fire truck. It's not only more compassionate, it's far more effective. And it costs taxpayer far less, because I can give you the dollar amount. We do it every day. When somebody is in the court system and we try to cure the eviction, we pay 2 months, maybe 3, and then we stabilize, we work with them. When somebody is on the street and responding to them, costs us a lot. Talk earlier about the landlord and private business needs. You have to put the first deposits, insurance, huge, and then at the table, 12 months guarantee from your tax dollars for somebody to take someone, because they are risk families. So it costs a lot. So what I tell people, that throughout my career, I have learned that it's always a better option when we help people stand and climb. It's a better option than always trying to catch them after they have already fallen. That's where the system, the whole county, it's not to bash people who came before me or even the people who are now. I am focusing on the systems, because a good idea and good policy does not produce good outcome. When I talk about behavioral health or homelessness or that youth event prevention that we have in district to 650 graduates, it costs a fraction than processing a juvenile through the juvenile system. I don't need to look up things in Google. I don't need to look in AI to talk. I can tell you about what's wrong, what's not working. So these are, when you have a system that's only designed to respond all the time, you don't get the same. Think of that dangerous intersection, right? Where crashes happen every day, every week, every month, every year. We could continue to buy more ambulances, or we could build the safe guardrails, improve the lighting, make that intersection safer. We're always going to need ambulances, but if we don't invest in prevention, that's what's happening. Crashes never stop. We see them every day. Thank you for asking.
So you don't think that those signs that say caution, high crash intersection are working very well?
I think they are, but we need more than that.
Sorry, I was being a smart
No,
ass.
no.
I don't think they work very well.
No. I think we need more of that. That's what prevention is all about. It's less costly than responding after a crash happens.
Yeah, good to see you both. So my question here is specifically about Multnomah County tax rates, actually. From your experience living, obviously, in Multnomah County, running for Multnomah County Commissioner, and the work you guys have done, what are your thoughts on the Multnomah County tax system, as well as its effects on stuff like business and people's ability to live here and stuff like that?
Yes.
Affordability, and of course, since the normal, it's a cultural standard in our city and county to sort of argue that like all these, all social programs are the stuff that like allow communities of color, like myself, yourselves, to be able to live here. And in relation to tax rates, do you think that's necessarily true? Because those two things, social programs and tax rates, are linked almost together.
Yeah. Taxes it's a big challenge. This is my position on tax, and I'll give you a real. I have not long ago a black lady who came to our center who needed help with rental assistance, and she goes, Nabil, I used to own a home here in St. John's, and I said, please tell me more. What happened? She goes, I live on a fixed income. Accumulate the old property taxes. You guys put a lien on my house, I had to sell it. That's gentrification. You talk about taxes. So this is my position on taxes. There's a lot of working families, small businesses are facing incredibly burden and the pressure of economic environment. So it is always healthy to periodically review our tax structure. Make sure it's affordable. When I say affordable, I just gave you the example where taxes for that lady were manageable relative to earnings. 2, they have to be equitable. So I understand that a lot of tax policies happen at the level of the state. The county doesn't have that much about it, but they have to address the tax burden. They need to look at incentives and exploring tax options to protect seniors that I talked about who live on fixed income, working families, and businesses. And we need to look at some modules that have happened in different places. So, but this is the important thing about taxes. We cannot continue to ask people for more. That's the thing. I said earlier about the budget so high that we have and we still have issues. And I'll tell you why we shouldn't. Because this is the thing. When your car is not working well, the first question isn't whether you need more fuel. It's whether the engine is running properly and the way it should be. That's the county, that's government should act and work the same way. It's not measure about how much is spent, but whether is it making people's life better. So we definitely need to look at how we could make sure that, because we want business to thrive. We want people to keep living in Canton or in Cali neighborhood, or in Concordia, in the neighborhoods where they love. So yeah, but again, we need to, like I said, the county doesn't have that much on, but we could address livability, we could address affordability, and what you had mentioned earlier also about the cost of living. There are a lot of ways I'll be happy to talk more about, but thank you for asking.
Yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you I do not understand all the answers on the taxes outside of it's too much. We're asking people to when I say it's too much, I'm gonna say it this way. We're asking people to continue to give, to continue to pay this without showing them a return on the investment for what they've already paid, right? And so when we start looking at the taxes and what it is that we're charging people, my question becomes, for what it is that what I'm giving you in order to operate, in order to function, in order to do this, that, what are you giving me in return? So when I call you, are you responsive to my call, or are you pushing me off to someone else to say that, well, you should call this person or you should call that person? So I would say that we need to start looking at what we already have. I don't believe there should be any tax increases. I would say that until we can do a thorough investigation of what we're currently doing and whether or not it's working or not working. When I say whether it's working or not working, have we looked into make sure that we can give an account? I believe that as a people, we need to be able to show you where your tax dollars are going. This is what we're doing with them. This is how it's uplifting the county. This is how it's uplifting the people. And this is why it's working. This is actually why we need more, or maybe we come back and say, we're good, we're not gonna ask for anymore because of what we're doing and we're seeing some change or whatever. But we shouldn't be able to ask for another dime until we can show with full fidelity what we've done with what we've already asked for, right? And so again, I'm not gonna sit here and try to act like I know all the ins and outs about taxes outside of, it ain't working. You keep asking me to give more, and my grandmother used to say you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. And so stop asking me to give you what I don't have. Take what I've already given you and make that work. And I think that's the essence of what the county and what the people and what the businesses are saying. I'm giving you enough. Take what I'm giving you and make it work. It has to be enough, because I can barely survive without it. So if I can barely survive without it, it has to be enough for you to be able to do something with. Otherwise, what's the point? And then that's why we lose them. And so when we show people, again, show me. Show me what you're doing. Show me how it's working. And then if it's not working, tell me it's not working. Tell me it's not working. But for you to tell me that, that means that you've already established and set, this is what successes are going to look like. This is when we should see it. He's done this stuff before. And that, we're going to see success by this point. If we don't see it by this point, don't just keep going. That's aspirin. No, I didn't see it. I missed the mark. I'm sorry. Come back. Call another meeting. Get the people back together. Hey, people, listen. I know I told y'all that this is what we were going to do. I know I told y'all that I believed in it and it was solid. I also told y'all that this is what success was going to look like in 6 months. Well, guess what? It's 6 months and I ain't seen it. So instead of us continuing down this road of hopefulness, we're going to stop, reassess, reevaluate, pivot. Let's go back to the other plans that were on the table and see but we can't just keep doing, because that's a broken system.
I have a follow-up question to that.
He had his hand up for, I'm not trying to monitor, but he had his hand up once and then your hand and then it was her hand.
That education background right there.
And so I just want to make sure I point that out, because Vicky was looking this way. He had his hand up the last go around the business thriving question. Then he put his hand up just now, and then she had her hand up.
This actually come up with a guy named Stephen.
Love the
He's talking to
conversation.
Nabil about the fact that Portland, Multnomah had a vision in the 70s and 80s, and it became a real. I haven't been here for the county very long, less than 2 years. I'm just relying on people saying. Basically, the idea was had a vision in the 70s, 80s, became a really nice town, really nice town. And then apparently around the time I bought a house in 2016, it started to run out of gas, and it's not so great. So I'm just curious if, since in a way the county and the city are behind, like other metro regions have recovered or whatever, is there any thought to actually sort of collaborating with them or working with them to figure out just like best practices or whatever for the problems you have? I mean, it's
Collaborating with who? I'm sorry.
basically other metro regions or whatever, where
Yes.
you're dealing with a similar problem. Maybe you haven't had, maybe you've had more success, maybe not, but,
Yes.
just by the fact that you're, in a way, Poland is no longer can be regarded as sort of as on the cutting edge or whatever. Anyways,
Well-
it's probably a simple yes or no.
Well, you mentioned really good points. It's about livability, and back in the 70s when Portland was different, the vision. Thank you. It's an amazing question that you asked. I just want to add one thing quickly about the revenue stream, and then back in 2015, the county revenue was $1.2 billion. In 10 years, it became $2.7 billion. Now it's $4 billion.
The revenue?
And the revenue.
That we
Well,
Well, the-
2.7 billion in revenue from property taxes. It's the county reportings. So this is the thing. And the population of the county hasn't grown. In fact, people have left. So the question would be, is like, okay, some people may say that with the inflation, cost of living, but as you were saying, I agree with you. The county has the responsibility, any government, to demonstrate that we're delivering effectively and taxpayers' dollars before you ask for more. So I worked closely with Metro. I was able to go to them not long ago, back in May, and I said, listen, this is what we do. And these are the numbers, these are the data, this is how we are making things better. I was able to get $262,000 from Metro. Went to the city early in June, and I said, hey, I want to tell you, this is what we're doing, we're getting people to treatment, we're making progress, and we need your help. Got $750,000 in June, and $4.5 million for the homelessness, what we do, because we showed progress. We showed that we could reduce visible homelessness and encampments. It's not about moving encampment from one place to the other. That doesn't solve the problem, doesn't provide recovery, doesn't provide public safety. So, one thing we have in Portland that a lot of places don't have, strong neighborhoods, strong businesses. We need to invest in livability, in affordability. Affordability is that single mom with 3 children who came on Friday and says, Nabil, affordability to me is keeping the house that I'm being evicted. I need help with utility. I need help with food. So we need to invest, make the neighborhood stronger, our business community stronger, and we need to have a vision. And I tell you this, a gardener does not make a tree grow, but a gardener could put healthy soil, water, make sure there's sunlight, and protect what's growing. But I can guarantee you there'll be shade for the next generation to sit under. And I say hope is not something the government can promise. Government could create the conditions where hope has a chance to grow. We need to invest in our community, in human capital and human potential to make a difference. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I have a question. I am a homeowner. I own a home. And very often when we have elections, there are bills to increase or to vote for a project or something that is going to take money according to the value of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know being on the table as county commissioner is going to take hard decisions, good conversations. What would be your approach to issues that affect us taxpayers, homeowners, when you want to allocate, county want to allocate money in projects like 106 million for the Moda Center, or for the Lloyd Center. And so, what would be your approach to issues in the future after November? There are going to be new projects, new ways to, but I want to know about your approach to take those decisions. And I know it's difficult, but I would like to hear how your abilities to think about in a more equitable way. Hey, this is going to impact neighborhoods, this is going to impact citizens, but not just the business people.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. It's one that's in the heart and fiber of who I am as an individual. I don't know who made this quote, so I'm not gonna act like I did it or that I came up with it. I heard it somewhere and I have wrote it ever since. But it says, anything that I do for you without you, I do to you. Anything that I do for you without you, I do to you. You asked me about how do I make decisions. One, I come into a conversation open to listen, open to learn, open to understand. Then the first thing that I'm doing while I'm there is I'm asking, are all the stakeholders here at the table? When you start thinking about the stakeholders, all the people that are involved, is neighborhood here? It's going to impact neighborhood. Is neighborhood available? Is our businesses here? It's going to impact businesses. Our businesses here. Is all the different ones that are going to be impacted. We need to create spaces as you've heard him say, and again I agree with him. Prior to, we know when these different projects, as we want to call them, are going to come up. And why wait to the last minute to try to bring everybody on? If we bring everybody on ahead of time, if we bring people in early, we start talking about this stuff early, start making people aware of stuff early. We use we get a CAMS team. I just realized that when I first started this whole run, I actually thought that it was volunteer. Then they told me that you get a whole team and that you got, somebody's going to be working on CAMS. So now I can make sure that I got the communication goes out to the community, and not just the ones that are in my circle, but to the ones that are going to be impacted by it all around, right? It's a lot of what we do is we say focus on District 2 because those are the people that actually voted for us. And so we want to make sure that District 2 knows. The reality is, though, when you sit in this seat, you represent the entire county. It's more than just District 2. So it can't just be about my little section. I have to think about how my section impacts the next section and how that section is going to impact that section. And so we have to continue to come to the table. We have to be open to conversation. We have to be open to learn. We have to be open to listen. We have to be listening to understand versus listening to win. A lot of times we come to this stuff and it's like, I want to win the moment. I'm not trying to win the moment. I'm not trying to, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not even here trying to make a whole bunch of new friends because I have a lot of friends. I have friends already. I'm not getting into this because I want to make friends or I want to get likes on social media. I'm here because I believe that I'm the man for the hour that has the boldness and the courage to say what needs to be said and create change that will transform this county to get it from where it is to where we want it to be. Does it mean that I don't think anybody else can do it? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I know I'm capable. I know that I'm fully capable. I know that when I sit down and have a conversation, I know that my words matter. I know that they carry weight. I know that I represent more than just myself. I know that when I'm speaking, I'm not just speaking for me, I'm speaking for everybody that sent me here. So it's absolutely imperative that before I start talking, that I've actually interacted and engaged with those individuals, which is why I spend most of my time in the city, in the streets, in the fields, working with the people, grassroots, doing stuff. You don't see me in a bunch of offices. You don't see me in, a bunch of big buildings. You don't see me there. This is the last place I want to be. But it takes me being here to change policy so that I can get this county where it needs to be. So I take the energy that I have on the streets, I take the energy that I have in the community, I take the love and the respect that I have out there, and then I take that with me into every boardroom that I go into, and then we sit down. So when I say we sit down, a whole community sits down with me. I never sit down alone. And when I speak, we are speaking because I never speak for myself. I speak for the community that I represent. So you want to know how I make decisions? I make decisions based on the weight of the people that are sending me into the room. No carrots are hung over me. I don't need nobody to give me money. I'm not for sale. You can buy a lot of stuff in this city. You can't buy my name. It means too much. So.
Thank you for Oh.
No, it's my, is it, okay. I have a two-part question. So when you're talking about taxes, I am really tired of paying taxes like PSEP. What does that do? Why has it become a sacred cow? Preschool for all. It's not working.
It's working for my family
yes.
and all of the families that aren't paying. Like
Right.
I would be in debt if
Uh-huh.
next year I couldn't have preschool for all. So I just want to say, when you say it's not working, keep in mind the families that depend on it.
Okay,
So
so
continue
it's
to talk,
some,
but keep that in mind.
it's somewhat working, but I mean, it's not where, it's not gonna meet its goals, it's not gonna, and I also feel like it's a real low threshold for what, anyway, what I wanna know about that is, if something isn't working, I want a government who's gonna say, oh, this isn't working, let's go and fix it and make it working. But then also, you have people on the, this is my two-part question. This is the Multnomah County Budget Advisory Committee. They don't even know, they can't even get answers about the budget. We do all these grants, and I run a grant program for the state, and I can tell you where every single dollar of my funding goes. Multnomah County can't say the same. What are we gonna do about that? Because I am really, I wanna know, like, if we're spending $4 billion on homelessness, I wanna know how much that is for every person we're getting off the street. I want a report, I want a dashboard, and I'm really tired of being kept in the dark like a little mushroom, so.
Or the 600 million that's sitting in an account. I think that's the
It's
big
$1.2
concern.
billion with interest right now in the
It's
banks.
what?
$1.2 billion in the bank with interest. We got
Yeah,
interest on that.
I would say, you know, it should be working. We want every family to have access. But when you have 1.2 billion, they're not meeting their goals. They're raising taxes. Like,
And it's constantly
why
going
would
up.
I want to pay that money if it's
And
not
also,
getting to the people
aren't
it's
they-
supposed to? And just gaining interest, like the clean energy fund at the city. You know, nobody wants to spend it. They want to hold on to it. And like, when I'm done with school, I'll be in that bracket. I don't want to pay something that's going to sit in a bank account indefinitely. That's my problem with it.
But why
I want
isn't it
people to
funding
be served.
itself? Like,
Oh,
why aren't we investing it to fund itself? And so, yeah, I'm
That's-
sorry.
That's
No,
kind of what I would add. I
No,
don't
no,
know if
that's
that's
wonderful. That's absolutely good
This is a
question.
conversation we
The
can have.
structure in the chair's office, both the preschool for all money and the library bond, they're off limit. The way how they were put. I have question, if that money is sitting and we need to do a lot of work, why can't we use that to improve what we're trying to improve? And we need to look at different approaches, how we could spend that money effectively. Now, about taxes. Yes, county government has the responsibility to demonstrate where taxes are going. That's what I'm introducing the Multnomah County Accountability and Results Act. It's not only a dashboard, but creates accountability where you, the community, have a say in it to drive where we go next. That's what it should be, the report card is about. And it shouldn't be under the chair's office. It should be independent unit. I'm not asking to create another fund, no. Under the auditor's office, they don't report to the chair's office. They could show the community the numbers where we're failing. You mentioned earlier, Julio, about the tax, I don't want to forget about it. And you mentioned the Moda Center, all great questions. You have to look back at measure 50 and measure 5. It looks at the assessment and the evaluation of your home. If your home is you know, it's 3%. If its value is $500,000, it's assessed as $250. The other measure 5 was basically $15 and $1,000. So we need to look which way working and what's not. And we talked about people being at the table. I agree with you. We're always we do good about telling people where the destination should be. We need to have people, community, neighborhood association, residents, sitting with us telling us where they want to go, not us telling them where we should go. That's what I mentioned earlier. We have one of the largest budgets. We can't continue to ask. If there's a proposed revenue stream, it has to be clearer needs. Why are we doing? If I am supporting preschool for all, I know this the discussion we're having. It's great. Where it's working, where it's not working, we need to have to measure those performance. I would like to see when people exit are they in a better shape? The behavioral health that nobody's talking about, which is huge in preschool for all. I was in preschool. We do simple observation. That's about it. So I think we need to get good at delivering better results that we can see with what we already have without asking. And if it's not working, we should. And somebody mentioned earlier about the contract and the county contract. We need to put some outcomes. You know what the outcomes are? It's, we measure activities. That's not how you measure success. You measure success by graduation. People no longer depend on government assistance. They don't need you anymore. They have stabilized, recover, and build their lives. That's what measured success should be. So we need to, and even, we create all these shelters, but they're considered as the final destination. It shouldn't be the shelter final destination. It should be the first step, and then working with folks on treatment, behavioral health. And I'm not just saying this because I read it in Google or AI. I can tell you what behavioral health success looks like for 14, 20, 48 months with people. I'm sorry, you had your hands up.
No, I have a question. Well, I have a comment. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm a mom of 2 preschool age kids, and I work for the state managing a grant program as well. And I'm not saying that because I think Preschool for All is working well. So my question, but I think that I like to be careful with language. I don't want to call it a failure because every other parent I know who's had access to it, their livability. And we actually left Portland in 2023, so we're part of that data. We came back. That data's not here yet. I think a lot of people are coming back because they leave. Livability here is still so much better. So I just want to shout out this city. I love this city. I chose to live here. I had a job in Washington State, and when I got a job here, I canceled our plan to make an offer on a house. I think a lot of the gap here is that programs like behavioral health in preschool, we love small businesses here. The county acts as a pass-through all the time. We chose to have our preschool program be a pass-through, which was, it was in the bill that, the measure that passed, but we have our behavioral health as pass-throughs. And the gap is, we talk about data and accountability. Let's say we finally get that data, we see where the failures are. Are we gonna shut down small businesses, or how is the county gonna build evidence-based technical assistance to get us where we need to be, and what is the role of policymakers in doing that?
So good. I love that. I'm gonna take a stab. I believe that I want to say first and foremost that I think Preschool for All is a good conceptual idea, and I would love to see us get to a place where everyone can benefit from it. The whole. And I would also say I do question the sustainability of it under our current budget cycle and structure that we have right now. Is it truly sustainable? And I think that's what everybody is trying to get to, is that, it's, are we seeing the results from it, the benefits from it? Our parents and families, are we seeing that because they're not having to pay for this, that they're now having this influx of income that they can use towards creating a better livable situation for themselves in their homes, and that they're actually rising as a result of it. And I don't think that we've done a good job as a county doing a study on that to really understand. So I think what people want to see is allow the data to drive the conversation, right? And so let's not throw it out and say that it's not. Let's actually do a real in-depth study to show exactly what it is. And then from there, now we can make a true in-depth decision around, is this sustainable at this rate? Is it sustainable at this rate? And at what point can we start to bring others on? Or do we need to scale it back? But I don't think we should make any decisions without the data that's going to show why we're doing what it is that we're doing. We're in an amazing time within our city and within our county, as to where people are hungry to see change and transformation for the better, because we realize how vital what we have is. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our city. It's the charter schools are the heartbeat of our city. These different things, these that help our different circles and our different cliques and our different spots grow because we all need different things. Not everybody is going to Amazon. Some people are going to the thrift store that's right there on the corner that redoes thrift clothes or whatever. And so we want to make sure that all of these spaces are able to thrive. Like they should be in a space where they can thrive. They have the support systems in place so that they can thrive, so that they can serve the community, the pocket, that niche that they have, and that crowd that loves them, that just loves what they have to offer. They should be able to go there. And we should have data that supports why it's necessary. We need to stop talking as a county about, you know, all this other stuff, and we need to focus in on what we currently have, what we're currently doing, and we need to assure up to everybody else that this is what's working or this is what's not. We spend a lot of time as a county, as a city, as a whole, I think, talking about stuff. We're conceptualizing stuff. When we've got enough information, if we looked at it, to really evaluate what already is. And then we should be making our future decisions off of what we already know. Then we build from there. Now we can say that this is why we need additional behavioral health centers. How many do we have actually? Does anybody know the answer to that question? How many actual behavioral health systems do we already have in place? And if we, because he just said that his is a small one, he only gets 1.something million or whatever. And if his is
not just for the behavioral health, for the housing,
for the whole thing, so
the
now,
rehousing, the economic justice recovery program.
So he only gets that. If he's an outlier, and we got thousands and thousands of people that need this service, even if we had him full, he's not enough. As a county, it should be our responsibility to make sure that there's a lot more Nabils in place in every sector of the city, in every sector of the county, so that instead of people having to come from near and far, all these other places, we have a behavioral health center in this part of town. We have a sobering station in this part of town. We have this in this part of town. And the county should be the ones doing that lift. We're program services. We're behavioral health services. We're mental health services. We're the programs that keep the city thriving. It's our responsibility. And instead of saying that it's somebody else or the city needs to do this and the city needs to do that, how about we own it and just say, you know what? We've done a piss poor job in the past. Don't hold me to yesterday. Hold me to where I'm going. So from this point forward, this is what you can expect of me. From this point forward, what we're going to be looking at is how do we raise up, instead of just saying we're going to raise up another houseless shelter, because we love to raise up houseless shelters. How about we say we're going to take the money that we would use into a houseless shelter, and we're going to use that to raise up a behavioral health center, and we're going to staff it, and we're going to make sure that it actually has a sustainable budget so that it can last for X amount of time, because we do it. Another thing that we do a great job of in our county is starting. Oh, man, we're some amazing starters. Oh, my goodness. Start this, start that. You start. Everybody start. Where's the finish? Where's the finish? I want us to see it do a better job of doing the finish work, right? Because it's the finish work that matters. It's not the fact that you can start something. Can you finish it? Can you finish it to the end? And so I want us as a county to get to that place as to where the reason that we stopped talking is because we got so busy doing and we got so busy working that we actually made our name mean something. Y'all realize the joke of our name? The city that works.
Oh, yes.
It used to work. It used to work. Back when Vera did the name, we used to, and it used to work for all the people, right? That's why it came up. The city that works. You were there. But now, if you ask people, what are they saying? It don't work. So, anyway, I saw you had a question.
Vicky, I was going to ask you, do we have a statement, closing statement, or not? I just want to make sure I'm structuring. Do we have a closing statement at the end?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, do one more
Okay,
question.
I just wanted to.
Speech.
This was me.
No, I had one too.
Not a question.
That's okay.
Before you, Talia.
Well, okay. Since we were talking about preschool for all, clearly we want families to be served. Now I know there's 1.1 billion in the account. What are we gonna do with that? Like, I am so fucking tired of having high taxes or the business taxes or the whatever that don't get spent. They sit there, oh, no, we leave this for later. This is for later. This is for this nonprofit or whatever.
Well,
Well, you could answer that.
I
but
mean, the opposite problem that we have with the homeless spending, I'll just say, I know, is that they're spending money just to spend it. And
Well,
we
yeah,
don't want to
that-
see
we
that.
don't want
we
that.
don't want to see that with
We don't
Preschool
want
for
that.
All.
But like $1 billion, if we're losing people, how is that
I
growing?
can tag on to that.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
happy to
So
take
I'll-
that.
I just want to know. Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, because this might be a good segue into,
Sure.
and so I'm not in this district, I'm in D1.
Okay.
But it
Thank
all
you for being
applies.
here.
Yeah, well, and I'm filming.
affects all of us.
But where I'm going with, so I've been very involved with the Clinton Triangle Shelter that was set up by the city 3 years ago. I've been on the oversight committee every month, twice a month for a while. We met with Urban Alchemy, the city, our group, and talk about what's going on. I think over the last 3 years, it's been very interesting. I've learned a ton. One of the disappointing things, or the frustrating thing to me, is that we have people that have come off of the street, they've gone through the program, they've done well, they're ready to go into housing. Somebody said it, shelter's not supposed to be the do-all end-all. It's supposed to be a pass-through. It's supposed to be an emergency shelter. There's been people there that have actually lived there for almost the whole 3 years. Now, that's not okay. The mayor has clamped down on that, and we're doing quicker throughput. But one of the drawbacks has been all the way through the 3 years is we've never had enough housing for people that are ready to go into housing. And they can't just be put in an apartment. Early on, we had some folks go out, they go in an apartment, either they messed up in the apartment, or guess what? They came back to the door of the shelter. Can I come back? I miss my community. So there was a big miss there, but most recently, last month, we have multiple people ready to go out. There's no place for them to go. There's no supported housing available. There's a lot of treatment programs, supposedly, I found out, but some of these folks are already kind of in the right space to be housed. So I guess my question is how are you going to work with the city? Because the city took this housing or this homeless stuff on because the county was literally paralyzed, during COVID. And now we've got two systems that don't apparently seem to be talking enough, and that much money sitting there when people are sitting in a shelter waiting to be housed.
And we can talk
I'll be
about it.
happy to take
Yeah.
quickly just before, because preschool is really important. I've met with people who preschool had made a huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
Because the investment, where we're having here exactly the discussion we should have.
Yes.
What's working and what's not working. Community are asking, I can't see the investment because nobody's sharing. We talked about the data a lot. Yes, I'm in support of real data, better life data that's person-centered. But remember, data is only the tool. We can't manage what we can't measure, but the data is the tool. It's not the outcome. The outcome is fewer people, in the street, fewer people returning to the shelters. That we should. So I just want to make sure that we talk about this. You talked about the amount. It should be, when we voted for it, it was clear what should be delivering. And that's what we lose track. We don't report on it. We don't say what's the problem. We're just like, hey, we're doing it and we're okay with average. So we need to address that. And that money shouldn't be off limit where we have issues, social issues. So for the shelter, I mentioned the shelter should be the final destination, people to get, and we need to be walking people to the next door. Housing by itself, it is not enough. You talked about affordable housing. Yes, everybody talk about we need to build more affordable housing. Yes, with the state, with city, with Metro and everyone else. Yes, but I mentioned people who are being evicted every day. They are becoming stats of homelessness. They end up in the street. We need to make sure they don't end up there in the first place. People who need mental health and treatment, we need to build. We have wonderful caring people clinicians and wonderful, organizations try to do work better every day. But that's not coordinated. People fall through the crack, as I mentioned earlier. So, one thing that we have done in our business, we worked with the private sector where we secured a block of 300 units. With the private sector, where we house people, this last year alone, 125 people from the shelter, and we're working with them. They work. So sometimes it's not only about building, is using effectively what we already have. We have a lot of county lands that we could use. We have to focus on the urban density, up instead of out, what people, they want to more see, urban. We can do that. We have to encourage the business and developers by incentivize them to participate in building affordable housing. There is the city permitting issue. There is no incentive in taxes. And guess what? There's still some corporation who just play games. We tell them, hey, you have to build affordable housing after any 20 units. Well, guess what they do? They stop at 19. We have to put accountability and what that means, and we have to put penalties and financial responsibility for folks who are working with. You have to have, you talked about the city and the county. I've seen that most of the time, a successful orchestra is not everybody's playing different instruments or the same instrument. It's people listening to one another and following the rhythm and the music. That's what makes it successful. When we have this partnership with the city, it's not strategic. There are no shared outcomes, results, what looks like. I'm using big words. Let me give them a little bit in details. We track 3, 6, 9, and 12 months home retention. Successful people are not returning. Success is measured by people not returning. That's what we create the Economic Justice Recovery Program, and version 2.0. It's called Beyond the Roof. Most of the housing programs, they focus on placement. Housing support services on services. Beyond the Roof focus on graduation. It's not measure how many people enroll in the program. How many people leave the program, they don't need you. These are what we need to invest in. Because we know if we continue doing what we do, we're gonna get just the same poor result. And we can't do it by ourselves. We have to partner with neighborhood association, with labor, with faith-based communities, with private sector. This is how we get ahead. We need to have something we could see that it's making progress and it's delivering and it's creating. You don't need to look at an organizational chart to figure out what the county is doing and what the city is doing. That's not how we should be. So, okay, I'll stop there.
I just want to put something on the table.
Please
Because
do.
we talk about the city and the county. I just want to throw this out there. Let it sit where it sits. The city got in the housing game because the county was doing a piss poor job. And that's the only reason that the city got in. The city got in. They were never supposed to be in the housing structure. It was never supposed to be a lane that they were in, but they got in because they were like, you know what, they're not doing anything and we need to clean up our streets. We need to do something. So we're going to start our own housing unit and our own stuff to get people off, and we're going to do this job that they're not doing. And so now they started their thing, and that's why, and we wonder why they weren't talking together. So then after a while, they said, we need to have this joint housing HRAP thing, you know what I'm saying? They call it something, joint something another. Joint home of, guess what they don't do? Join? They talk about joining, but how many actual real functional meetings where they've actually, have you looked at the report?
They
If you,
legally renamed it.
Yeah.
So it's not a joint, so the city complained the last council. So it's
But
the
they do
homeless.
throw data at each other in press releases.
but that's what
They
they,
fight over which
they
data to
fight
read.
over who's getting credit. When who cares about who gets credit? I want results. No one cares who gets credit. We want to see stuff get done. So I just want to put that out there into the ethos that the city should never be in the housing game. That's supposed to be something that's ran, operated, and functioned by the county. And so if the county is doing what they're supposed to do, the way that it's supposed to be done with fidelity and working with partners and working with behavioral health agencies and working with sobering centers and working with workforce, if the county is doing what it's supposed to do, then the city should not be in the game. And until we start doing as a county what we're supposed to do, we're leaving the door open for somebody else to critique and to criticize the work that we're doing. We need more accountability. We need more fidelity. We need to work this, and we need to work it to the end. And we need to stop saying, I've done enough because I got them up. Sometimes you have to walk with people until they're able to walk by themselves. That's the kind of stuff that he's talking about. So when you're hearing, and he's talking about out to the door and beyond the roof and all that, bottom line, what he's saying is, we're going to work with you until you don't need me. And then when you don't need me anymore, I'm going to stick around a little bit longer just so I can make sure that you truly don't need me. And then once I walk away from you, I'm going to check back in with you in probably about 6 months to a year so I can make sure that you truly meant what you said when you said you didn't need me. The county is supposed to be the ones operating systems like that, as to where we are lifting our people up. We are creating systems that work with people from this point to that point. And then after we've got them up, then we can step back and say, you good? Okay, I'm going to let you walk for a little, just so I can make sure. Now I see you walking, I'm going to check back in with you. Are you still good? Because sometimes we don't know what's going to happen when the first real crisis comes after you've gotten out of the system. So you get out of our system and you're doing well while you got supports, but then you get outside of it and you don't have the same structure that you had around you, and now you're left to try to figure out what to do with this. And if you don't have a support system that continues to work with you, you go back to the vice that you usually use, which is why we have rehab issues. And so people fall back on what they do know because they didn't have somebody to tell them, hey, it's good, we all make mistakes. You know how many times I've fallen? You know how many times I had to be picked up? The county is supposed to be that blanket. We're the warm blanket that comes in, we create the programs, we create the systems that lifts up the people to say, we're going to make sure that you're good. From the rooter to the tutor, we got you.
See, the homelessness is not a county thing alone. It's the city, it's the metro. Because you see visible homelessness encampments in the city. I think the problem is not building the coalition. It's think of it as there's a messed up marriage and they are divorced, they get divorced, and then later on they said, well, let's have a baby. So that's the city and the county. What we need to do is that most of the discussions, everyone is focusing on how to win the argument, not how to deliver what the community and the voter have asked for. People get involved, there are a lot of emotion at the table. People don't understand that, hey, it has to be strategic partnership with measured outcomes. That we need to look at, we might not agree on everything, but we need to go in the same directions. This is what we need to do. The city and the county, it was worse. It's getting a little bit better, but we still have a lot of work. They need to demonstrate to the voters, to the community, what's working, what's failing. That's what we need to do. People sitting at the table, the focus, they lose track of why they are there. The simple question should be, if we learn one thing or two from the private business, is the transaction, what is the return on investment? Whatever we try to decide, is it delivering a good return on public funding? That's what should. We need more coalition, not just with the city and the county, the private sector, community organization, neighborhood association, people to talk to what we can do it better. That's what we're missing at the table. It's not one of the strongest partnerships I've seen is where people listen to one another, or respect each other, and always remain open that a better solution may be at the table, and then you have to adopt it. People is my way on the highway. That's what will never get us, even to move a step forward. So that's what we need to focus on. in partnerships.